Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation, hello and welcome to News Hour. I am Bakar Bangura in the headlines. 14 paramount chiefs takes former leave of President Ernest by Kuruma to attend the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat in London at State House. Minister of Finance and Economic Development launches the 2016 African Economic Outlook Report in Freetown. Frabe College Professor Ibrahim Abdullah describes his sacking by the University Authority as a violation of his human rights and the University Acts. And University of Sierra Leone also won the validation workshop on the report on examination malpractice. All the stories and more, including business and sports news, lined up here in this edition of News Hour begins right now. Now for our first story, 14 paramount chiefs who have been selected by the Ahmadiyya Mission in Sierra Leone to attend the annual Jamaat conference in London have taken formal leave of President Ernest by Kuruma at State House. Razia Bashkamara sent in this report for News Hour. Dr. Bakar, President Ernest by Ahmadiyya elected which he described as significant as it demonstrates religious tolerance to provide space for various religious denominations to live together with others as a family in their communities. Vice President Dr. Bakar maintained that it is also shows that religious groups are tolerant to each other and they do accommodate, coordinate and collaborate with each other to build a cohesive and God-fearing nation. The Vice President observed it is only in Sierra Leone that this level of religious tolerance exists. He recalled how President Ernest by Kuruma has personally come to the aid of Sierra Leoneans to perform the pilgrimage to the Islamic Holy Land of Mecca and his personal assistance he provided to Muslims during their holy month of Ramadan.
Today, the mission has grown and it continues to grow. Your Excellency, it may please you, sir, to note that the Ahmadiyya Mission now has 265 schools, 800 mosques, 3 clinics, 1 missionary training college, and a radio station. The mission has an NGO named Humanity First, providing services in the areas of health, gift of sight and water to impoverished communities.
Briefing the President on the conference, the Amir and missionary in charge of Sierra Leone, Maulana Said Ur-Rahman, said after the Ahmadiyya conference in Bo in April, this is the second forum he's meeting with President Kuruma. He pointed out that he would therefore use the forum to express profound gratitude to the President for his attendance at the conference. The Amir and missionary in charge Sierra Leone told President Ernest by Kuruma that as a mission, they will continue to pray for him, his government and the nation. Deliberating on the conference, Maulana Saad Ur-Rahman said during the Jalsa Salana conference in Bo, they had 70 paramount chiefs where Muslims and Christians were all assembled together. In his contribution, Paramount Chief Bangura Salilugbu said the trip happened through the president's divine blessing and his relationship with the mission. He pointed out that it is the largest number of Paramount Chiefs to attend the conference, and they are going there to pray for the government, nation, and for stability in Sierra Leone, which is the purpose of the Jalsa Salana. Speaking on behalf of his Christian colleagues, Paramount Chief by Shebra Kasanga II of Bombali Shebra Chiefdom said they consider it as a privilege to attend the conference as Christians. He also thanked President Ernest Bai Koroma for ensuring religious tolerance in the country by cutting across boundaries for development and religion, which has facilitated all those activities. Paramount Chief Alhaji Sir Konobundo said the religious tolerance in Sierra Leone has been the cornerstone of the maintenance of peace in Sierra Leone, which President Koroma has worked so hard for it to be maintained in the country. He noted that the Vice President and his colleagues said they will not leave the shores of Sierra Leone for such important conference without coming to bid him farewell, and thanked the President for also going to mosque and praying with the Muslim congregation. Welcoming the Paramount Chiefs at State House, President Ernest Bai Koroma told them that it's always a pleasure to have them be in their office, and he thanks the Amir and mission in charge of Sierra Leone, Mwalana Said Uraman, for the mission's continued support to the efforts that the country has already placed in advancing the country. The president pointed out that from 1921, since the Ahmadiyya mission arrived in the country to date, they have come a long way in supporting development in the country. He added that as a government and nation, they have seen this development in schools, in the health centers, support the communities, the non-governmental organizations that they have established, and the social education that is taking place through their radio programs. President Ernest Bai Koroma intimated the Amir and mission in charge that they fully appreciate all the effort, noting that Ahmadiyya mission has always provided support to groups of people to attend the annual Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat conference in the United Kingdom. The president observed that the number of groups supported have been growing, and the beauty of the whole exercise is a mixture that they have always in the process. He went on that last year's conference was attended by the superintendent of the Wesleyan Mission in Sierra Leone, including other Christian personalities, as part of the delegation. Further commending the activities of the mission, President Koroma said for this year's conference, they have the Paramount Chiefs, among whom are Christian Paramount Chiefs.
So we hope that whilst you go out there, you will continue to fly the flag of Sierra Leone, because you are going to represent us out there, and you will be praying for the country. We want to pray for peace, prosperity, and the recovery process to go very quickly, so that we get out of what you will enjoy the kind of decorum that is always observed in these meetings. Because with all the numerous people that will attend from all over the world, I am told that there is always a high.
The sacked professor of the Department of History and African Studies at Frabe College, Professor Ibrahim Abdallah, described the decision of the University of Sierra Leone to relieve him from duties as a violation of his human rights and the University Acts. Professor Abdullah was reacting to his dismissal at a news conference held at large headquarters on Campbell Street in Freetown. Ibrahim Samura has the story.
But as far as I know, when you are appointed, even as lecturer, you are appointed, you have a 1 year or 2 year probationary period, and then you are given a full-time appointment, which means you are now pensionable. As long as you have received that appointment, you've done your first year or 2 years, you are then given a pensionable appointment. And there is never any question about your appointment being renewed until you reach retirement age.
As a former administrator of that university, I used to head from the college. I know that the main challenge or duty of an administrator is to create the enabling environment to hone the intellectual and academic powers of your staff so that they can do their job properly. You are not there to team them.
The sacking of Professor Ibrahim Abdallah, a senior lecturer of the History and African Studies Department, Frabi College, by the University of Sierra Leone, has been condemned by some quarters of the public and the alumni. At a press conference, the sacked professor told journalists that the decision of the university to relieve him of his duty is a violation of his rights and the University Acts. He said it all started in a letter from the head of department to lecture a new module which he had not prepared for.
It's disturbing because it ridicules us as academics. It exposes the rottenness of the system over time. And if we're there, it challenges us to rethink the model of the academy and the university. Whatever anybody would want to say, the issue before us is one of professionalism or lack of professionalism. Faculty are hired without due regard to specialization. Unqualified people are promoted to as far as senior lectureship without any publication.
Professor Abdallah said from the 6th of January, his salary was withheld and it's 7 months now without receiving a salary, saying that the decision by the university court was illegal.
I want you to note this, because Thompson subsequently went to misinform that he invited me. Thompson never invited me. And that letter, that meeting, is also recorded in my letter to the president, which was off. So once that letter came out and we saw the direction I was coming, that I was talking about people teaching without consulting and people teaching without books, they said, oh, Abdullah must have crossed the mark. Now we have to go after him. In my view, it was that letter that provoked the jihadists.
According to him, the inclusive search for justice and the battle against impunity continues. He started lecturing in 1983 and he has not yet reached the age of retirement.
The newspaper, what they published, actually came from this report. It's very interesting because when we went to the president, Mr. Thompson was saying that I refused to teach. The registrar was saying that I was assessed on the basis of they want to give me a pensionable appointment, and I was found wanting. Look at the title of this report. It says, Report of the Committee set up to investigate the renewal. Can you investigate renewal? If they want to consider me for renewal of appointment, they should take into consideration the fact that I suffer from deep psychosocial problems. So Mr. Spencer is actually the boss of Dr. Naim. Yes.
The African Union has developed Agenda 2063, a 50-year continental framework to ensure socio-economic transformation and sustainable development. This framework comprises existing continental frameworks. During the 27th African Union Summit held in Kigali, Rwanda, a sideline media engagement was held under the leadership of the African Editors Forum to popularize Agenda 2063. Princess Gibson has the rest of the story.
2063 is a continental framework of the African Union to ensure socio-economic transformation of the continent over the next 50 years. The 7 aspirations are geared towards integrating the continent politically on the ideals of Pan-Africanism. The agenda requires capacity at various levels, which Ambassador Phoebe Potgieter-Kubuli says Africa possesses.
I certainly think there are enough resources on the continent. We have the human resources, 1 billion people, majority of them young, a growing population, a fast urbanizing population. So we certainly have the human capital. And if you look at the demographic trends in the rest of the world, Africa is the only continent that's getting younger, whereas the rest of the world is aging. So from a human perspective, we have the resources. We also have the resources in terms of natural resources. We have virtually every single precious mineral. We have oil, we've got gas, we've got geothermal, we've got lakes, we've got rivers. We are a large island. Our oceanic resources are, and oceanic space is 3 times as large as our land mass. So in terms of natural resources, we do have that. The question is often raised whether we have the finances. Already in 2009, Africa funded 85% of its development. It's not enough. And we need to look at how do we stem illicit flows, how do we improve our taxes, tax collection, and giving accountability for taxes.
The chairperson of the African Union Commission, Dr. Nkosazana Zuma, spoke on the crucial role of the media on the realization of the new Agenda 2063. The framework is in line with priorities of national government that are to report to the African Union. Princess Gibson, SLBC News.
Well, that was Princess Gibson reporting. Members of the Parliamentary Oversight Committee, as part of their mandate, have visited the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation to access the performance of the country's public service broadcaster. The meeting discussed successes and challenges of the SLBC and map out measures to move the corporation forward. Nasiruddin Kuruma attended the meeting and he now reports.
Members of the committee met with SLBC management, deliberated on issues mainly bordering of the digital migration from analog to digital and funding for the broadcaster. The SLBC Board of Trustees Chairman Festus Mina was quick to note that it was sad indeed for the SLBC is not able to take its financial burdens from the government as they are expected. He said a lot of factors have held back the corporation from moving forward and the snail pace of the digitalization process. He also maintained that they have battled for about 3 years to ensure that they get the right partner for the digital transformation, which is not happening. He said they had favored the Chinese company StarTimes. The chairman of the Parliamentary Oversight Committee on Information and Communication, Honorable Bangura, informed the SLBC management that it is their responsibility to assess the performance of the public broadcaster, identify challenges, and support measures to sustain its operations.
We are here today to perform a very important function. That is oversight. Oversight is one of our core functions as parliamentarians. We are here at the Ministry of Information, and of which SLBC is part of the Ministry of Information and Communication. And this falls within our purview. Not too many words. We are not here to witch hunt you. We are here to make sure we do what is right. You will be given the opportunity to tell us what you have done within these years in the name of developing this institution. And we would like to know also your challenges in the process of doing what is expected of you.
The SLBC Director General, Dr. Elvis Banabum Allowell, highlighted the success and challenges of the SLBC and management's strides to realize the digitalization target, mentioning the immense financial opportunities that go with that transformation. He, however, lamented that a company called WTS was given the contract to undertake the digital transformation, with SLBC being disadvantaged. The contracts, he said, was not signed with SLBC as the implementing partner, which is the case in all African countries that have undergone the process.
Government tried to write a contract with a company called Wells Trade Services, WTS. I'm sure you are aware of that. And with the intervention of the new Minister of Information, we want to laud his efforts in bringing SLBC closer to the discussion of which we were not part of when the agreement was reached. In fact, at this room, my board members were very, very angry because they believed that the President was not properly informed when we looked at the contract itself and what the SLBC would have lost had we gone ahead to support that contract.
The Director General also underlined problems that are faced with land grabbers of SLBC's properties. Member of Parliament Alhaji Ibrahim Ben Kagbo and former Minister of Information and Communications commended the strides made by the SLBC in terms of meeting their mandate of promoting democracy, which was the singular reason for setting up the public broadcaster. He noted that the issue of funds to support the newly created SLBC was highlighted as a concern when discussions were ongoing for its creation, and that the government should support the entity by provision of subventions and salaries just like other public broadcasters such as the BBC and the South Africa Broadcasting Corporation. He said the government was forced in the end to be paying salaries when the United Nations stopped withdrawing funding. In this light, Honorable Ibrahim Ben Kagbo suggested to his colleagues that the bill be taken back to Parliament for a review. This was re-echoed by Honorable Kalfala Sheku Kante, who said it was imperative that a solution be made to remedy the funding problem of SLBC to a sound footing. Other parliamentarians expressed optimism for the public broadcaster, citing it as a breeding ground for broadcasters all over the country, and that SLBC needs just the right support and encouragement of its staff. They also urged the SLBC management to take the bold step to reclaim their properties from encroachers.
We would love it if we take it from here. I mean you, on behalf of us. Because as you have seen, we're grappling with too much. We want SLBC to be what you want it to be. We want SLBC to be comparable to CNN and BBC,
Exactly.
and all the biggest broadcasters of this world. But we are limited. Money, the lack of money, is not enabling us to go to where we want to. We're looking forward to the subvention. We've been talking about it for a very long time. That is what keeps the BBC going, and SABC, and all the other public broadcasters.
Career development is a long life process of managing learning, work, leisure, and transition in order to move towards personally determined and evolving preferred future. Christ Embassy Tivo Club Initiative has organized Career Day Seminar for pupils of secondary schools in Freetown to help them in the career selection before reaching tertiary level. The seminar brought together over 500 pupils from over 15 secondary schools within the municipality of Freetown and the Miata Conference Center Brookfields in Freetown. Nasiruddin Kuruma reports on the story.
Successful men in the fields of banking, entrepreneurship, law and mass communications were facilitators brought in to inspire the school children to take up their right determination for a successful career. The speakers including media guru Dr. David Tambayo, accountant and business administrator Harold McCarthy, legal luminary Sonkita Conte, successful entrepreneurs and career developers like Pakai Kamara and Leslie Gordon Brown encouraged the pupils to choose careers that will create the impact that will reflect their personal success and national developments. They emphasized that right determination makes it easier for one's success in life. Therefore, the right morals, courage, and perseverance is a prerequisite for a successful career.
When we are educated, it's for two things. One, that you are able to serve society when you are educated. Two, in the course of serving society, you are able to put bread on the table for your family.
I believe some of you here already know what you want to be in life. Maybe some of you have already have a taste of this work experience that I've been talking about. And you've already decided you want to be a doctor, or you want to be an economist, or maybe you want to be the next president in Sierra Leone.
Your success in life is determined by what you are willing to ignore. Decisions makes wealth.
Pupils from the various schools asked the facilitators questions on their presentations to guide them in making their own choices in life.
This is News Hour Live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. Director Child to Child UK Tricia Young has expressed satisfaction over the implementation of a radio teaching project by Pekin to Pekin. She made this disclosure at a one-day visit to the 3 Kisi chiefdoms in Kailang district to know the impact of Pekin to Pekin radio learning project. Francis Danema sent in this report for News Hour.
Pekin to
Paramount Chief by Komlu Queen II of Marampa Chiefdom has described the launching of a computer lab to promote girl-child education in his chiefdom as a step in the right direction. He made this statement at the launching of the Rachel P1 and Books for Peace Computer Lab at Our Lady of Guadalupe Secondary School in Sar, Marampa Chiefdom, Putlako District. Joseph Stanley has the story.
With gender equality and the empowerment of women are recognized as fundamental drivers of development, it is now believed that economic empowerment will serve as a main source to transform women's lives for self-reliance.
An organization working for children, Care Sierra Leone, has launched a project that focuses on school feeding. Child rights activists believe that the provision of food for primary school pupils will serve as a motivation to increase pupils' attendance and retention in schools. The launch was done at the Aberdeen Primary School, where school children were fed. Nasiruddin Kruma has the story. Well, we apologize because we are getting some technical hitch. To end news are the main points again. 14 paramount chiefs took former leave of President Ernest by Kuruma at State House to attend the Ahmadiyya Muslim Conference in London at State House. The Minister of Finance and Economic Development has launched the 2016 African Economic Outlook Report in Freetown. Frabe College Professor Ibrahim Abdullah has described his sacking by the University Authority as a violation of his human rights and the University Act. And the University of Sierra Leone has held a one-day validation workshop on the report on examination malpractice. Well, that's all in this edition of News Broadcast Live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. On behalf of the news editor Ibrahim Ansari and the rest of the team, I am Bakar Bangura in Freetown. For more information about the programs, do send us an email to contact us at slbc.sl. Up next is Issues in the News. Hello and welcome to Issues in the News. I am Bakar Bangura. In the program today, the University of Sierra Leone, in collaboration with the University Research Service Center, has concluded a validation on the report on examination malpractices. The report is a follow-up of a stakeholders forum on examination malpractices held in February. In the studio to deliberate on the report and other related issues is the Deputy Vice Chancellor of IPAM, Professor Alicine Sise. He is my studio guest. Welcome to Issues in the News. Now, when we talk about examination malpractices, what are we talking about here, and what are the causes for this?
Let me start by saying, when you design an examination, there's a purpose and objective. So any act that contravenes the rules and regulations of the examination
and which gives undue or unfair advantage to some candidates. That will constitute exam malpractice.
So is it likely that the University of Sierra Leone has no better monitoring mechanisms to monitor examination frauds now?
There are challenges. We have monitoring devices for examination to deal with the problem of examination malpractice, but it's a deep-seated problem. So we are trying as much as we can, but we are faced with many challenges.
So what are these challenges that you've faced with?
First of all, I would say examination malpractice is a reflection of what goes on in the larger society. This action of greed, immediate gratification, laziness, people who don't want to work hard for rewards. It starts right from the primary school, right onto the secondary school, to the university system. People don't want to work to earn honest grades, and so they try to contravene the system by engaging in all kinds of dishonest practices to get an advantage from others.
Now, Professor, if we're talking about examination, the lecturers, the examination office, and are all part of this.
Exactly.
Who are to be blamed, or who is to be blamed?
Everybody shares the blame. The students who may not want to work very hard, the lecturers, unfortunately, who engage, they facilitate the process by taking bribes, parents also, who encourage their kids to be involved in this practice, or who want high grades for their kids and will do anything whatsoever to get good grades.
Why should the parents do that?
Well, examination is a high-stake activity. The consequences for passing and failing are great. If you pass, you get promoted. If you fail, it brings dishonor to the family, and no family will want that. So they engage in any kinds of activity to ensure that the students pass.
Now, you held a workshop on how to address examination malpractices. What were some of the recommendations that you came out with?
First of all, I don't think examination malpractice is a problem that requires a major surgery. But what we have been doing is to apply band-aid remedy to this problem. So we need stiffer sanctions on anyone caught in examination practice, especially lecturers. I'm recommending that any lecturer or teacher found guilty of examination malpractice should be blacklisted. If you are involved in examination malpractice, University of Sierra Leone, you should be blacklisted. You should not have the opportunity to work anywhere else in the country.
So is this alarming in the educational institutions in this country?
The whole system is fraught with this problem. Every semester, there must be an incident. You have an incident of examination malpractice. So if we don't take stiffer actions, we name and shame people who are involved in this process, the process will continue.
Now, what are the disadvantages of examination malpractice, especially on students?
Well, let me take it on a macro level. For development, we need quality manpower. And if we don't have a stiff and a stringent examination system whereby we can produce the best students, you find students with a first class but cannot produce. So one great consequence is that we provide poor manpower for development processes.
Now, at the end of the workshop, you came out with recommendations. So how would this help in addressing these issues in educational institutions?
Well, the recommendations are broad-based. Because examination malpractice occurs before, during, and after the examination. So the policies address factors that come into play before the examination, during the examination, and after the examination. And also infrastructural facilities, a lack of infrastructural facilities, because when you have 100 students in one classroom, it's difficult to invigilate. So we have to provide better facilities so that students could be spaced out and they can be able to do their work without looking at somebody this small. So we even suggesting for CCTV, as is done in some other places, so that students could be monitored during the examination.
Now, how credible is this report that you presented after the validation?
Very credible, because it involved the wide spectrum of participants from the secondary schools, primary schools, teacher training colleges, universities, parents, teachers union. So there was a lot of input. So it was well discussed. So what we are going to do now is to develop policies based on these recommendations, policies that could be harmonized to be implemented across the university and across the nation.
Now, Professor, we heard that the president, who is the chancellor of the university, has asked for a policy on examination malpractices. So, when are you presenting this policy to the president?
Well, we just validated the report yesterday. So what we are going to do now, as a matter of urgency, is to put together a team that will look into this process, delve into this process of coming up with a policy that will take into account all these findings from the consolidated meeting we had.
So how concerned is the university about this?
Very concerned, because the credibility of the university is at stake. If you produce students who cannot perform, then it reflects negatively on the university. So, like I said, it's an emergency. If we don't address this problem right now, our future will be bleak.
Now, finally, before leaving you, are we going to see a new era in the conduct of examinations in the next academic year?
Definitely. We're working hard to provide more space, to have training for invigilators, because invigilators are also involved in the examination malpractice. They turn a blind eye when they're invigilating. And also, it's very important is to have pedagogical training for lecturers. Many lecturers who lecture at the university have never had any training in pedagogy. And one great problem in examination malpractice is that most assignments and examinations we give require the recall of information. If we don't give more examinations that require problem solving and critical thinking, examination malpractice is going
now,
to be
this issue of plagiarism is also a concern to the university.
Very big problem, very big problem. You give an assignment, student goes to the internet and just copies. So there's this lack of respect for the work of others. It's a big problem, and that should be addressed right on from the primary school right on to the university. Plagiarism is a big problem. In fact, people don't even know that there's what they call self-plagiarism. If, for example, it's not only not giving credit to somebody else's work that you've taken, but if you have presented a paper in one environment and you go to present that paper elsewhere, pretending it's a new one, it is self-plagiarism, and that is as unethical as using somebody's material and not giving credit to that person.
Okay, thank you very much. The program has been Issues in the News live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation, and we spoke to the Deputy Vice Chancellor of IPAM University of Sierra Leone, Professor Alison Sisi. Thank you very much for accepting our interview for today on Issues in the News. On behalf of my producer Joseph Stanley and the rest of the team, I am Bakar, Bangura and Freight, and this is the SLBC, and keep watching.